Buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares and extends my way. From the heart, gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video to help the message get out a little more. Gracias. Well, everyone, we just finished the live. Some interesting things came up on the live that I went and just to see it. First off, I gave my word, not gonna mention nobody or direct nothing, which I'm not. You know, my word is gold, right? At least to me. So, but there's this individual that he calls himself a title and he's going off on me, right? I know I don't see it because you guys know I'm not on YouTube like that, right? But seen someone trustworthy put out something and I just checked it out, which is okay. He can do what he wants. I just want to say, everyone, I always say it, don't trust nobody. Give everyone enough rope for the real to come out, one way or another. But be careful of those snakes that are disguised as homies. Not necessarily, sureños, but norteños, paisas, bulldogs, act. There's a lot of funnies, right? For example, I shot this person down because I seen through him just by his words, right? Might might sound like an idiot, look like an idiot, but you know, I seen through him, and all I'm gonna say is, a camarada or even a homie can never address another homie's lady, wife. That makes you basura, and it's a shame. But again, more power to you. I hope it helps you attacking me. I'll leave it with me, right? In any way, shape, or form. With this said, today I want to get into a real good camarada, right? And with every definition of the word, right? Earned and everything. And it's based on some questions that I've been asked about you, that I've been asked from you, excuse me, which is, basically you had to be in there with the movement, you had to be in the hole, in the shoe, or whatever to be good on out on the streets or get anywhere, right? And no, there's a lot of good people that go in there and they do their time, right? They do their time and they're honest. They what I mean by honest is they don't come out claiming to be anywhere, to be anything, just straight up. I did my time, I presented when the Ranfla called to present myself to Boogie, and I did me, which is respectful, right? Again, if you're out to make a homie, that's what it should be about, right? For example, again, I'll talk about me, right? The stuff I'm involved. If I have love for someone, which I should, right, for all the camaradas, because we are one, I'm gonna push for the camarada to get involved, right? That's just me hurting the camarada straight up. But anyways, again, I want to talk about Johnny. We'll go with his first name because you know, he still has a lady he left behind and two kids, and he was known by his nickname out here. So just show that respect. But Johnny, he was from Gardenia 13, and he was one of them homies that did sometime about 5 balas, and the only 115s he got was certain events that went up on the yard against other races, right? Against it's segregated like that inside. So, but anyways, he was born in Mexico, even though he lived in the States since very young. And, and I know a lot of people throw shade of homies like that, but to me, it just makes no difference, right? A homie's a homie. And when he came out this way, he didn't know Mexico, point blank. He's been over there since a baby. And you could say it's kind of like all of us, you know. And nevertheless, he had an option to come out here and just make a life, right? Which at one point I think he was, because like I said, he got married, and when I met him, he had a little boy that was over a year old, and his girl was about to have another baby. And but he went out looking for homies, right? Where he didn't want to just be out here, and basically he wanted to touch base with his gente. And I understand that, right? Out here, from many angles, they make us seem like a fish out of water, basically, right? Like the odd thing in the room and stuff. Especially in these days, you know, when you see a homie all blasted up, head, neck, everything, then everybody was like, like, they seen a ghost or something. But anyways, when I met the homie, he was already doing his thing for the old man from Ontario, right? And at one point, he was over there in Rosarito too with Evil. He was doing what he was supposed to do. In a sense, me personally, as I told him once in person, is like, hey, out here is Tacañón, right? And you sure, homie, you want to be doing this? You got a lady and you got two kids and stuff. You have that opportunity. Me personally, at least here in Mexico, I don't really have nothing till date, right? But again, he did, but he wanted to be involved, right? So my respects. We talked about where he was busted, and again, how he did his time, who he met. It was a lower level, so I didn't really know no homies there, to be sincere. But out on the streets, he was doing his thing. I went out with them one time on a mission, and sad to say, it was against another camarada, right? That basically used and sat on something that wasn't his, and we had to go out of bounds and go get him, and do the funnies, and basically present him to Daryl, and Daryl presented him to them individuals. And well, I told the story where they take him in the room, and guys know, basically you're standing there about 10 feet, and an axe is being used. Let's just leave it at that, right? And anyways, I remember we went, up there from Culiacan because D, he went by his placazo out here, For those that don't know, we just say M, right? And he was having problems in Sonora. And then again, he was Jefe. He was really running that Sonora for somebody, right? And he had his own crew, Out here they're called Talibanes or whatever you want to call them, right? Protecting them. But see, there was some funny stuff in between. There was a group, you know, I believe Jaguares or something to that effect, right? But they were from Gente Nueva. It was just a faction that was trying to break off and go solo. And again, since they belong to the same Ranfla or organization out here, they were already in Sonora. It's they got given a lot more freedom, from the and they felt they could go solo. It's exactly how things are built here in Mexico, betrayal and backstabbing, and they were started hunting D down. They couldn't reach him, for many reasons, but nevertheless, there was a lot of people falling to them. So we got sent out there, me, five other homies, and we met with them. D had a good 10 to 15 homies. Well, three trucks, we'll just say it like that. Three trucks riding with them, besides others, right, from the faction out here with them. And we ended up meeting up. Me personally, I always felt more comfortable, when I knew they were camaradas, right? For many personal reasons, not to talk any type of shade to those that were righteous when we went out and did things, right? But it just was what it was. It's just my gente, right? And when we're up there, it's like somebody, somebody's telling, and I even mentioned this to Johnny and D, right? Like there's somebody here that's keeping these fools on point on everything. For example, they've been attacking for a whole month. They see all of us get here from Culiacan, and all of a sudden they stop. They ain't in the city. We haven't been able to find none of them. So it was somebody from the inside, which again is it's exactly how things are here, right? But anyways, 3 days went by, and they told us that they were in a little rancho, like six of them. Now keep in mind this little rancho is literally from Hermosillo going up, you know, up the mountains near the coast. It's just one of them fisher towns, you could say, just out of bounds a little bit, where there's hardly people, right? And we went up there, and we did what we did. We ended up finding two out of the six. As we found these two, when they got brought down, they basically got their issue and they spoke. When they spoke, they said them guys had gone to this other little ranch that was literally about 10 miles up more from the ranch we had found them, which again, it was our bad, our mistake, right? And we went out there and we were confident, and It's only four of them, you know. I remember for going up there, I reminded the homie, hey, there's no need for you to go, homie. You know, it's just four of them. Stay down. You know, cuida a tu esposa, tus niños. You know, or stay by D. You know, right now he needs that. He needs that safety ring, right? And he said, "Nah, I'm on boogie." You know, not in them words. You guys know some of my words, but I want to go and I want to be with you guys. You know, at the end of the day, we ride as one, right? Again, that's the reason why me personally, I stuck with the homies, right? Because we had that mentality. And anyways, not to make the story long, you know, I had been to the homie's house. I had personally met his wife, his kids. He really had a chance to do something peaceful, right? But again, it's just so ingrained in us that basically sitting down, out scouting, not doing nothing, it just don't fit right, right? When your heart really loves the movement, I can relate to it, you know, because I was that idiot that after almost 24 years, I could have gotten out and gone back home, but I didn't, you know. And I don't regret it, you know. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not that individual sour that things I done I regret now. No, I'll try to make peace with them in any way I need to, but regret is it's like putting down what we were doing and the people that fell right between what we were doing. But we went up there and it was basically a big old setup. You know, instead of going up there like we did the first time, you know, about 7 trucks, 8 trucks, we went up there 2 trucks, 10 individuals, you know, and it got crazy. You know, when we were sitting down, before we do anything, we always make it real clear, right? That if it gets hectic like that, we hold ground. And if it's too much, for example, if we have to go at it for too long, we know military's coming, especially in the little towns that are up in the booties, right? So after a while, it's just like we all pick a side and everybody, boom. If you're gonna fall, you're gonna fall alone, right? If, in every meaning of the word. So that happened. You know, I grabbed the brecha basically through the mountains because we were idiots. We didn't go prepared straight up, not just in man, but also in parque, you know. And again, they were waiting on us. So I grabbed the brecha. For those that know, you know, I never been a coward, but out here in Mexico, it was, you never waste all your bullets, right? Because if you get caught, man, well, you guys seen enough of it. You know what's going to happen. And, anyways, I took off. I don't even know how long it took me to reach a town. I didn't even know where I was going. I'm straight up with you. I just picked a side and just pushed. And I pushed to the coast because you could literally see. You guys know how far away you could see how is the ocean or the sea, whatever. And I just pushed forward that way because I know eventually I will hit a town, right? Which I eventually did. And when I did so, you know, again, we didn't keep cell phones, none of that, right? It was mainly the driver that had a Nextel, and that was it for many reasons. And I would hit that town, I would get on one of them pay phones, and I had to reach out to out here in Culiacan to reach up there, right, to D, and then I would eventually make it back to Hermosillo. And those that made it, right? And we didn't have too many losses. There was about 10 of us, I'll say eight homies made it back. One, Guachos or military caught him, and the homie right here, Johnny, he got picked up. He got picked up, and there's always funnies, right? There was an individual that he would end up flipping, and I remember getting, and upset is not even the word, right? But again, it was D. Oh, and Evil. They co-sign on this, right? He tried to come back and rejoin after he had at one point joined these cats, right? But he was present that day. Then they tortured the homie for, I don't know, like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And this is just a guessing, right? Because they would eventually bring a cooler down to Hermosillo and leave him inside the cooler. If you guys get it, and this individual that was trying to get back in good with me personally, I even spoke it, right. I told E, right, the senor. I told him, hey, and just smoke this fool, dome him. And he said, hold up. And he was speaking about what they were doing to him. They wanted these location, or they wanted to know how many people were there, the towns. The homie was just telling them, F you, dale, you know, and he never spoke. They never ever hit an angle. And again, he was in Sonora with he knew everything. Not one time did they come down and hit something that they shouldn't have known, right? And according to this cat, he never spoke. So again, he's just one of them homies that fell in line, right? A camarada. You see, to me, that's a camarada. You fall in line for what you're called to do. At the moment, I understand we're in a different state, but we are opening pipelines that's going to benefit the movement. The homie didn't have to, you know. He had an opportunity after, let's just say, 5 years, whatever. It's still 5 years. He had a lady, kids. He decided, though, to stay loyal to the cause. Now, I'm not saying that's the right way. I'm saying that was his way. And he fell. You guys know I don't glorify, but things would end up getting uglier afterwards. Eventually, all them individuals would end up either leaving to Chihuahua or falling, right? And but the point of the story is, that title, Camarada. That's a title you earn. I understand 180s. We all, amongst each other, we're all camaradas to one another. That's why people say, oh, that word is very loose now. Yeah, it is. And it is where it's supposed to be. Amongst us, of course, you're my camarada. But to really have that title with the senores, you gotta sweat and bleed with them. But this is just a small tale. Uh, the current events or the things said, being said, made me think of the homie. Kenny was from Gardena, 13. His name was Johnny. I don't want to say his placazo for those that don't know, right? And I know for a fact he was in touch with his hood in a positive way. Because even though people tend to minimize camaradas that hit the States very young, I'm born in Mexico, they want to downplay him. The homie had the full heart of a campolero, of a homie, and he felt for what he believed. Now, with this, the insight I want to say on this is, afterwards, it was one of them things that should have opened my eyes. But again, I was an idiot, right? I fooled myself. You see, he had a truck. Him and his wife had a little business, and evil most of all made the wife give him up because they were a front supposedly for whatever, right? Instead of showing love to the homie, because he fell in line, didn't speak. He stepped up to the plate for the kids and the wife, right? But it's how it goes. I say it once, I say it again. It don't matter what you do. When you meet another member, you start from scratch. In this case, it don't matter how much time you done it. It matters how you done it. Where you been at. It's funny. There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I've been here. I've been here." Why you been there? Don't minimize that. Again, this homie was in a lower level, but look. But again, I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't go off on, oh, I gotta do the most. So my name is respected up there with most, because they don't work like that. You know, Allow things to fall where they need to fall. With this said, I don't have nobody to go with me to chemo, so I think my niece is gonna go with me tomorrow. So I don't know what time you guys will be hearing this. You guys know I'm gonna be down for at least a few days. But again, I pre-recorded for both channels, and after chemo, my niece gonna have the time to start uploading them to you guys. Thank you for your prayers. Please stay true to yourself and loyal to loved ones.
This is what we started. We always